everybody, it's Scrappy Canuck and I'm here today to share with you a little tutorial on how to make these beautiful paper rosettes for your projects. They're so easy to do. They're a lot of fun to make actually too. They only take about 5 minutes or so and you get this beautiful embellishment that you can add to your projects. So here's what you need. You need some paper. I'm just using some Making Memories embellishment paper. It's thin. Whatever kind of paper you want to work with is fine. You're going to need a pencil and some scissors. You're going to need a circle punch. If you've got one around, that would be great. And then also a mister of some sort, just some water. So I've just got a mini mister, but any kind of little mister will work. And then you're going to need a rolling tool. This is copper wire, but a toothpick will also work for this particular technique. If you're using a toothpick, you just want to take your X-Acto knife and just kind of blunt off the end, and then just take your X-Acto knife and try to cut a slit down the middle of your toothpick, just kind of like this, so that you've got a place to slide some paper into to actually roll it when we're working. My husband just made this tool for me out of copper wire. He thought he could make a better one than my toothpick, and he did. So he just took a little saw blade and just kind of cut down the middle of some copper wire for me, and then I can just slide my paper in just like that to roll it. Okay, so let's get to it. So I've got my little piece of paper here, and I'm just going to freehand draw a spiral onto the wrong side of my particular paper that I'm working with. And it doesn't really matter. This distance right here, kind of the two edges of your spiral, that's going to determine how high up your flower sticks up. So I don't want that to be too high. So I'm going to keep that space a little bit narrower. But down here in the middle, that's actually going to determine the base size of your flower. So however you want whatever size you want the base of your flower to be, that's what you're going to kind of leave on the middle part of that spiral, if that makes any sense. So I'm just going to take my scissors here, and I'm just going to kind of cut along the spiral that I've drawn. And again, you don't have to be very exact with this. Leave some peaks and valleys in your cutting. It's going to give your flower some nice definition and make your petals kind of poke out and stick up in different places. It actually gives kind of a nice organic look to what you're working with. So I'm just going to keep going here. And again, I've got that little middle part, so that's going to be the base of my flower, just like this. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my toothpick, or I'm actually going to use my little copper wire tool in this particular case, and I'm just going to turn it over so that the right side of my paper is facing up, and I'm going to work on the inside edge of this particular spiral, and I'm just going to slide my paper into the middle of my rolling tool, just like that. You can see how it's in there. And I'm just going to follow the top edge of the spiral right up here, so that it pops up right at me, and I'm just going to kind of follow it along as we go through this entire spiral. This is actually really quick and easy to do too. And I'm just going to kind of get to the end here. I'm just going to leave that in place, and I'm just going to pull my tool right out from the bottom. And you can see I've already started this beautiful little rosette. I'm just going to unravel it a bit here, just to kind of give me a it was really tight when I pulled it off, and I kind of want it to be a little bit looser than that. And you can see I've got my little rosette already starting to form there. So the next step is just to kind of start to put this thing together. So you can use a glue dot, but I'm actually going to use the glue gun just because I like how secure the adhesion is with the glue gun. And I'm just going to put it on there, and I'm just going to press down the middle rolled part of my flower right into the glue. You can see it already looks like a flower, and you could actually just leave it like that and use that on a project. It would be really cute. But I'm going to show you how to take this kind of a little bit further, give it more of a distressed look, and make them look a little more organic too. So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to start with some distress ink. I've got some Tim Holtz Broken China Distress ink here. Any ink will do for this though. And you're just going to rub your ink gently along the edges of your flower. So just along this top exposed edge, you're just going to ink up the edges a little bit here. It's just going to give a little more of a finished, polished look to the top edge of your flowers. Then take your mister, and you're just going to spray some water onto the top of the flower. Now this is going to do two things for your flower. It's going to allow the ink to bleed a little bit and set in place, which is really pretty. But it's also going to allow you to kind of roll these edges back a little bit without ripping and tearing too much of the flower. Although if you do, don't worry about it, because it actually gives a really nice kind of distressed look as well. But I'm just going to kind of roll these backwards. You can even take your little rolling tool or your toothpick and just use that to kind of pick out the middle of the flower here. and just roll it backwards on itself just like that. And you can see it's kind of looking a little more organic. Again, you can just leave it at this step, or we can take it one step further and create a more structured shape. So we're going to take some more of our Making Memories paper here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a pen and I'm going to freehand draw just some base petal shapes. And it's just basically a heart shape, but instead of going down into the kind of tip of the heart, you're going to come upwards and create a little point. And we're going to cut out 5 of those particular petal shapes. I like to work in odd numbers when I'm working with handmade flowers, just because it's more organic. I don't want my flowers to look too symmetrical. I just find they look too man-made when that's the case. And for these ones in particular, I like to work with kind of an odd number. I'm just going to cut this shape out here, just like that. And snip off the bottom. And that gives me 4 of my base petal shapes. I'm actually going to cut out 2 more, and the reason I'm going to do 2 is because one of those shapes actually has ink on it, and I don't really want the black ink. But I wanted you to be able to see it, what I was drawing on the video. So I'll just cut out 2 more here. There we go. I'll just find the one that's got the ink on it. There it is. And we'll just throw that one away. And basically what I'm going to do is just pick up one of these petals now and just pinch the bottom edge together. This gives a nice kind of 3-dimensional appearance to this particular petal, and it's also going to make it a lot easier to adhere to the bottom of the flower once we get to that stage. So we'll just do the same thing with each one of these. Just pick them up and just between your thumb and your finger, just pinch them together. Again, they don't each have to be exactly alike. You want them to be a little different in appearance from one another. There we go, just pinch that. And we're all set to go. So I'm going to take my glue gun again. I'm just going to flip over my little rosette just on the bottom side of it. And I'm just going to take my glue gun, just put a little dot of glue, and just take one of my petals, and with the right side of the paper facing downwards in this particular case, I'm just going to adhere each one of my petals in a kind of rotating fashion around the edge of my flower, bottom edge of my flower, and each one of these is actually overlapping the next one just to give the appearance that they're kind of opening up on top of each other. We'll just finish these last 2 here. Sorry, I'm just going off the camera here. I'm just noticing how awful my glue gun looks. We need to clean that off. There we go. And we're all set to go, so you can see how this is starting to shape up. So I'm just going to kind of pinch these edges back here a little bit. Just kind of work the flower a little bit until I get a nice kind of shape, rolled shape that I want. This middle part's still a bit damp too, which is great because I can kind of still manipulate everything. Just going to ink up the edges here, and then we are all set to go. So the last step is just to finish off the bottom edge of the flower by using your circle punch. We're just going to cut out a little circle here, and we're just going to adhere this onto the bottom edge of our flower just right in the middle. It's just going to finish it off, give it a nice appearance on the bottom, but it's also going to give me a nice flat surface that I'm going to be able to adhere onto whatever project I'm working on. So there we go. We'll just take my scissors here and we'll just fluff this flower up a bit, and we've got a perfect little floral rosette. So I hope you've liked this little tutorial today, and I hope you enjoy making these paper flowers as much as I do. Make sure you come back and visit me this week on scrappycanuck.wordpress.com, because I've got lots of other tutorials as well on how to make different paper flowers in shapes and sizes. Thanks for coming by.